anyone and everyone who is here, please note that this session will be recorded. There is captioning available for people who want to turn it on. If it does not turn on for you automatically, please be aware of that. We've been providing throughout the conference. And yes, and this session is titled Academic Librarians Becoming Open Access Publishers and Advocates. And our presenter is Professor Mark Aaron Polger, representing the College of Staten Island, City University of New York, and one of the organizers of the LACUNY Institute 2023.
Thank you so much, Nelson, for introducing me. So I am an academic librarian in the CUNY system. I'm at the College of Staten Island. I've been there for 15 years. I'm going to my 15th year. I'm currently on sabbatical, and I am going into my 8th year as a doctoral student, where I'm completing my PhD in education at the University at Buffalo, which is part of the SUNY system. So I'm working on the individual chapters of my dissertation. So I'm very happy that I'm involved in the planning committee, because I still want to be engaged with campus activities in the CUNY system. So thank you all for attending this presentation. Okay, let's see how this will work. Okay. So here's my agenda. So it's a jam-packed agenda, but it will go pretty quickly. And I definitely invite everyone to please interrupt me at any point if I'm speaking too quickly, or if you would like to have any kind of logistical information about this particular presentation, because there's some interesting details that I learned on the way. So I'm going to be talking about my journey on what professional development means to me, and just talking a little bit about my research interests, and also just talking about the gap in scholarship that I wanted to investigate, which is really like library marketing, communications, and really looking at that within the lens of library and information science. My aha moment came in 2017, and I'll talk about that aha moment. And also just the steps in becoming an open access publisher, and just the steps in developing a mission and vision, applying for an ISSN, and just basically recruiting a team, and just the steps in becoming a leader, which I'm not normally. My personality is I'm not a natural leader. So I'll talk more about really getting out of my comfort zone. And then just learning the steps in academic journal publishing, and just the steps in preparing the first issue. So yeah, and these are the different parts of what I'm going to be talking about, and hopefully finishing with enough time for Q&A. Okay, so because the theme is professional development, I wanted to kind of expand on brainstorming that concept. So professional development, to me, what it means is really being able to constantly learn and develop yourself personally, and really just expand your mind, expand your, again, learning horizons, and really it's about personal growth. So I've been working in libraries for 31 years. My first library job, I was a teenager, and I've been in the CUNY system for 15 years, and I came from a hospital library. So I worked as a medical librarian in a hospital. And I also, so for me, professional development meant, moving to an academic institution, and also moving to a new country. I'm originally from Canada. I'm from Montreal, Canada, in the province of Quebec, which was, again, it is between 80 to 90% French. So I am the 20% minority, the English-speaking part of the English-speaking population in Quebec. I moved to another country. I moved to the United States. That was a whole other, professional development. For me, it was, very, very scary. I wanted some professional growth in my life. And I moved 15 years ago, and really it was like super scary. So that's also part of professional development, doing something that's scary. And I've also been curious, because it was my dream to move to New York. So that was another, part of that professional development, just growing professionally. And another part is being hired at a university as an academic professional librarian with faculty status, super scary. So for me, other aspects of professional development also for me is learning new software. I was, super, super scared of libguides. I'm a little bit more comfortable with it now because it's super scary. And also just, learning new things and always being curious. So, and also a theme that I'm going to mention many times is getting out of your comfort zone. I have social anxiety in the sense that I'm very, very shy and socially awkward. And I wanted to get out of my comfort zone to be a leader because I'm not a natural leader. So creating what I'm going to talk to you about, creating an open access journal that you're publishing is something that is very uncomfortable because it's not something that I would normally do as serving as editor-in-chief of an open access, academic journal. So again, super scary. So professional development also means things like attending or presenting at library conferences, being on the planning committee. I've been on the planning committee for LACUNY Institute since 2015. So it's fun. All of these professional development endeavors are fun, some more scary than others. Also, for those of you in the CUNY system, I don't know, but publishing a journal article is super scary. And I had never published, in a peer review journal. I had published, magazine articles and newspaper articles, but publishing a journal article or writing a book, I have written a book since being in the CUNY system. It's super scary and really intimidating. And I think that one of the scariest things is going back to school. So I started my PhD in education at the age of 42. And that was also very, very intimidating to be amongst, students who are like, 20 years younger than you. So I think that it's on theme that professional development to me means doing things that you're not necessarily comfortable with and getting out of your comfort zone and constant learning and growth. So that's what, again, professional development means. And it's personal. So all of these examples I've tried. In 2011, I applied for a faculty exchange program, and this was back in 2011. And I am not really a world traveler. I go back to Canada, I go back to Montreal, Toronto. But CUNY sent me to China. I was in China for a month, and that was super, super. It was scary for me. I'm not really a big traveler. I'm vegan, so I have like a lot of eating limitations. But that to me was a professional development opportunity that was super scary. But I wanted kind of to investigate that opportunity, and I did, and it was overall very positive. So one of the things I've noticed is there is a lack of scholarship that I want to discuss that I found when I first started at the College of Staten Island in 2008, that at the time I expressed my interest to my chief librarian at the time, that my research agenda was really I was interested in examining and researching the marketing of libraries. So that means that I'm interested in outreach and communications, how people kind of share meaning with each other. So my research agenda includes, marketing, outreach, user experience, also known as UX. And I'm rather obsessed with signage. I just published a book in 2021 about signage, library signage. And I'm also obsessed with jargon, so how we use specific kind of language. So I outlined and identified my research agenda. And for me, library marketing, which really has a bad connotation, for me, it's about developing relationships and connecting specific targeted groups of library users with specific services. So it's more about, playing matchmaker. And that's the way that I'm thinking of library marketing. And that for me, my research is it's applying it to libraries and nonprofits. And I outlined my research agenda. The problem was that, and I just want to, again, I don't know why this happened. Hold on. I think the slides are out of order, but that's okay. What I want to emphasize in the next few slides is there was a gap in academic journals that focused on library marketing. And that was what I want to emphasize. But for me, my research agenda was really about expanding my mind. And because I'm always curious about things, I'm very inquisitive, I ask questions, I want to learn, that in all aspects of my personal and my professional life. So again, curious to learn new software that I'm scared of learning, improving my teaching methods and teaching techniques. At my particular institution, we teach a credit-bearing information literacy course. And so I'm always used to teaching in person, but during the pandemic, we had to transition to teaching online on Zoom. So we had the option of teaching live, synchronous, or again, asynchronous. And I'm not comfortable with Zoom. Now I am, but I wanted to see how my teaching would be affected if I was teaching synchronously online and really making much better use of Blackboard and other learning management systems. So that's an example of, getting out of my comfort zone and trying to improve my teaching, improve my writing. So since I started my PhD, I've written 3 books, and I have a contract with a 4th book. And I think I'm a horrible writer, but I've improved. So again, trying to always improve personally and professionally. So that's another aspect. I'm currently writing the chapters of my dissertation, and that's also scary in itself because I'm not very confident in my writing. And I think practical technical writing for writing professional books is very different than writing a theoretically informed dissertation. Two different topics altogether. I'm a procrastinator. I am slow as molasses, and I can definitely say that when I have book contracts, and I'm currently in my 4th book contract, I'm slow. I take on a lot of different kind of interests. My mind is everywhere, and I like to keep myself busy and just intellectually engaged and busy. So one of my projects that I'm going to talk to you about is the academic journal that I founded in 2017 called MLJ, Marketing Libraries Journal. And that's what really the theme of today's presentation. And this was definitely a wonderful professional development opportunity for me because everything about developing this journal made me uncomfortable. Everything made me uncomfortable. Okay, so as I mentioned, there is definitely a gap in library marketing scholarship, and it's usually scattered amongst, marketing journals, management journals, and some LIS journals that focus on public service and management. So prior to 2017, which is the year that MLJ was, the first issue was published, there were no academic journals devoted to library marketing. Now, I do want to mention my friend and colleague, Kathy Dempsey, who has been the publisher of MLS. MLS is Marketing Library Services, which is a print-based trade publication. It's a professional print newsletter that is practice-based. It's not scholarly. Doesn't really deal with scholarly studies, but MLS, which is wonderful, is a print-based professional newsletter that gives practical advice. MLJ, which I'm going to be talking to for the remainder of this presentation, is really scholarship-based. So it's an academic journal. I do love MLS, and I had to get my approval from Kathy, who is a friend of mine, because I didn't want to be in competition. Her newsletter, which is offered by the publisher Information Today, is subscription-based. And the journal that I founded is completely open access, both for the authors and for the readers. So I didn't want to threaten her publication, but it's a very different mission, scope, and guidelines because MLS is a trade publication and MLJ is a scholarly publication. Okay. So this is the aha moment. I wanted to create, and this was in 2017, and I got approval by my chief librarian at the time, the former chief librarian, where I got tenure in 2015. So it was like, okay, So I got permission to start my PhD, started my PhD in 2016, and started this online academic journal that's devoted to library marketing in 2017. And it was a very simple name, just MLJ, Marketing Libraries Journal. So it was super easy. And it is definitely grassroots because I don't have any corporate sponsorship or ads. It's completely out of pocket. Everything is out of pocket. So I'm just going to talk about, it did seem easy, but also scary. So becoming an open access publisher, so there's a couple of things. My goal was to make research freely available for authors and readers. So that means that there are no APCs, which are author processing charges. There's no corporate sponsorships or corporate advertising. Everything is paid for out of pocket. That includes web hosting, the domain name. I will talk more about OJSs or open journal systems and automated manuscript processing systems. Can't afford that. And identified a title, a mission, vision, scope, and coverage. And then I applied for an ISSN, which is the International Standard Serial Number. And some of the logistics, I would say the most scariest logistic is trying to recruit an editorial board. So that to me was one of the things that was challenging because I am pretty shy and like uncomfortably, I'm a little bit uncomfortable with approaching people. So just talk a little bit about that. Okay, so I wanted some benchmarking. I wanted to do some benchmarking. So I examined other open access library and information science journals. So I looked at CIL, Communications and Information Literacy, LPP, Library Philosophy and Practice, and Weave, the Journal of Library User Experience, and In the Library with the Lead Pipe. I just want to look at the structure of the websites, look at their author guidelines page, and look at just kind of like what the structure and the different kinds of information that would be in their journal, and then model my journal onto that so that it would kind of fit, and it would have all the different elements of what would be expected in an academic LIS journal. Okay, let's see. I'm going to just look in the chat to make sure I'm doing okay on time. Okay, I'm good. Okay. Okay, good. Just want to make sure I'm like super nervous. Okay, so I applied for an ISSN in January of 2017, knowing that the first issue would probably be published towards the end of 2017. So it was kind of a year in progress. One of the stipulations for the ISSN is you can apply a few months before the first issue is published. And once you apply to the ISSN, and I applied to the American one, obviously through the Library of Congress, it gets funneled down to the international ISSN. So that was easy. It was super easy. I developed, a mission, vision, scope, and guidelines, and just the basic structure of what this journal is going to be about. And I have that on the website, and I will share the URL of the website. I am not a graphic designer, so the website is just a very simple WordPress, very simple. I've been like designing websites since like the mid 90s, but I'm the kind of person who still uses plain HTML. So I am not a talented web designer. I do want to mention that Valerie Forrestal who's here, is an amazing web librarian and has designed beautiful websites for CSI. I'm sorry, I just want to plug your skills. And because we have beautiful, some people just have talent. I do not. So it is just a very simple website that really focuses on, organizing the contents of the journal. So, having an archive page, having the current page, having the call for papers. So it doesn't have a lot of pages. So it's a very simple, clean design of our website, but it is not, it's not beautiful. So talking about recruiting a team. So I use WOM. WOM is, okay, let's say I want to make sure. Okay. Oh, sorry. No, I was just praising you. Just sorry. Okay. I'm sorry, Val. Sorry. Okay. We use WOM. WOM is word of mouth marketing. And I spread the word through individual in-person conversations. I posted a call for volunteers on social media, as well as using email marketing, posting to library listservs. I also had a tabling event at ALA in 2016 because I wanted to promote the start of the journal in 2017. So in terms of recruitment, a lot of it was email and a lot of face-to-face conversations, a lot of phone conversations, a lot of like word of mouth. And I believe that WOM, word of mouth marketing, is very powerful. And so, I didn't pay any kind of paid advertising to recruit a team. A lot of it, I knew a lot of library workers who were responsible for marketing, outreach, communications, PR, and different aspects of marketing. So it was a lot of it was very selective and very way of recruiting individual people that I wanted to be on the editorial board. We currently have about 40 people on the editorial board, and it kind of changes year to year. Some people leave, some people come off, but it's been consistent and it's been really wonderful. So becoming a leader, I just want to mention, I am not a natural leader. I'm not a manager. I'm not like, I'll never be a boss, never. And so it was very uncomfortable for me to be editor-in-chief, but I can say that being editor-in-chief means that I've developed relationships with the authors. I've developed really meaningful relationships with the editorial board, and I get to read every article. So it's been really positive, but I'm not a natural leader. And I think part of professional development is trying to, again, get out of your comfort zone, something I've repeated many times, to do things that you're not naturally used to doing. And I am just a regular academic librarian, and I'm not a leader, and I never will be a leader. So I think that, yeah, managing people is scary, and I think that I had to learn how to be someone who's like more of a mentor, someone who empowers the editorial board. And I think some of the skills that I learned in becoming a leader, especially in an editorial board, is being self-directed, proactive, really innovative, thinking, having a vision, thinking for the future, negotiating, and also empowering, but also learning like time management skills, project management skills, because you're managing processes, but you're also managing people, which I'm not comfortable doing. So I also had to learn, again, because publishing each issue is a project on its own. So really learning about project management skills and time management skills, and lots of different skills that I normally would not be doing in my regular job. I am not a manager, so therefore I don't even, this was so outside of my comfort zone. So I had to learn the flow of the manuscript submission process. I cannot afford an automated manuscript submission like software. So I do everything manually using Google spreadsheets, Google Sheets, email, Google Docs, and that whole automated flow at MLJ is completely manual. So Manuscript Central is a commercial vendor that a lot of academic journals have as their automated manuscript submission process. Can't afford it, forget it. So I didn't do it. There's no budget, there's no funding, there's no sponsorships. And I also want to mention that OJSs, or open journal management systems, are like not as crazy expensive, but we don't have one. Can't afford it. So we use WordPress, and everything we use is, I try to emulate an open journal management system so that Google Scholar can index the articles. So if you mimic an open journal management system, the structure of it, using WordPress, you can trick Google Scholar into indexing the articles. I learned that. So that was something I learned. So for preparing our our first issue, I developed job descriptions for each role on the editorial board, and I defined the kind of Creative Commons license that would really, really flesh out the open access parameters. Everything's on the website under author guidelines and about MLJ. I'm using WordPress, and not the free one, but I'm paying for annual WordPress hosting. It's not very expensive. And I serve as the editor-in-chief. I also am involved in copy editing, proofreading, layout, final pagination. And so for me, it's been really exciting and fun. And we publish about 2 issues a year, and it's been going on since 2017. So it's very exciting for me to do something that I would never imagine being a publisher. So it's just very, very exciting. Our editorial board, again, we have about 40 individuals. I say it's a labor of love. I don't pay anyone. We're all volunteers. And we're not only librarians, we're library workers from all types of libraries. Mostly, most libraries are from the United States. We have a few libraries in Canada, and we have 1 librarian from India. And we have 5 columns. Columns are more practical in nature. They're not scholarly, but they're they undergo a single blind review as opposed to a double blind review. So we've got single blind and double blind peer review. And these scholarly submissions undergo 2 rounds of double blind peer review. So we have peer reviewers. We also have advisory board individuals who don't serve as peer reviews, but they serve in a more advisory role. And we have a production team. So I have to recruit copy editors and proofreaders, as well as layout editors and final, and I do the layout and the final pagination. And then we have team leads. So a team lead would be like a project manager who oversees each of the copy editors. And there's many copy editors. I would say there's about 10 copy editors and 10 proofreaders. So it's 20 in total. Now, in terms of what I do, I oversee everything. And I tend to be very uncomfortable being the boss. So I have to really, this is very uncomfortable for me to oversee everything because I'm not naturally a leader. I deal with layout and as well as pagination and table of contents. And I do the website, and WordPress is super easy. And I also correspond with the project manager for production and every single person on the editorial board. And I am the liaison between the authors and the peer reviewers. And I also promote the journal. So we promote it on Facebook. We have a Twitter presence with very few followers. And I also post to library listservs. So a lot of it is through word of mouth. And I think that currently there are only 2 academic journals in LIS. Uh-oh, am I running out of time? Uh-oh, okay. I'm gonna speed up. There are only
Oh no,
2.
sir, you're not running out of time. I was just
Okay,
clapping.
fine. Okay. Okay. There are only 2 LIS journals that deal with marketing and outreach. So one is brand new. It's a brand new journal called the Journal of Library Outreach and Engagement. So it's JLOE. And then there's our journal. So really, there's not a lot of journals that devote itself to marketing the library, because marketing is still a bad word. It still feels like a bad word. So I also add bit.ly for short links. So there is the full URL, which is a permalink to the PDF article in its final PDF. And then there's the bibliographic metadata. And then we use short links, which are for promotional purposes. And of course, bit.ly is great because you can do assessment, because there's metrics on bit.ly who you can see how many people have visited the article. And I add metadata to DOAJ, which is the Directory of Open Access Journals. And okay, I just want to kind of go through. Okay, so here's some other logistical matters that I'm relying on that I wanted to share with all of you. So there is freely available project management software. We use FreeCamp. And the manuscript processing documentation, I just want to emphasize again, I can't afford an automated system. So we use, Google Drive and use Google Sheets and Google Docs. So it's a big mess, but it's the only way to make things more affordable. I do use Google Workspace for our domain name and our emails. I use JotForm for the submission forms and for the peer reviewer forms. DreamHost is our website hosting, and they offer WordPress. It's really affordable. And the URL is, so the domain that I got is marketinglibraries.org, and then the subdomain is journal. So the URL is journal.marketinglibraries.org. I used to use HTML for the plain web pages, but now we use a content management system, WordPress, super easy. And we do not use an open journal hosting. It's just too expensive. And I wanted to apply to CUNY has an open journal system that has the Urban Library Journal. And at the time, Megan Waka was the scholarly communications librarian. And I asked them if there were any open slots to kind of apply to have MLJ as one of the slots for one of the open journal systems that CUNY has. And Megan said that I didn't qualify, and it's okay. Not the end of the world. I don't care. So it's independently published. We are not affiliated with any university. It is an independently published journal. Getting indexed, this was a little bit of a mess. So I applied to a lot of different indexing systems. We were accepted to be indexed in the DOAJ, the Directory of Open Access Journals, and we are in Ulrich's Serials directory. We got rejected for EBSCO because we are not a commercial journal, and ERIC is pending. It's the free version of ERIC. And then, of course, Elsevier, I have applied to be in Scopus, as well as Sherpa Romeo, and then Google Scholar deserves its own slide because it was a mess too. And being indexed on Google Scholar. So Google Scholar prefers open journal platforms because indexing is super easy, but I tricked Google Scholar by mimicking the structure of an open journal system by including the PDF full text and a web page with bibliographic metadata. And I did that by showing you right here. I'm going to just show you. So here's an example of an article. So in MLJ, we have a landing page, which is a web page, which has the link to the PDF, but it also has bibliographic metadata like the title and the authors, and it has it in different H1 tags. So Google Scholar likes that because they recognize that, an H1 is the title and an H2 or H3 are the authors, and then the other H's represent the abstract and the other metadata that describes the article. And of course, there's a link to the PDF. So that was a way of being able to be indexed on Google Scholar by tricking Google Scholar into this. So I'm going to conclude really shortly. So some of the skills that I've gained from being part of the editorial board of MLJ, number one, leadership. I'm not a natural leader, so this was definitely a really great opportunity to really further enhance and develop my leadership skills. Teamwork, as well as learning, learning to improve my skills in WordPress, patience, empathy, mentoring other members of the editorial board, project management skills. I'm very excited that I was able to really learn more about managing projects, even though I think academic librarians manage projects all the time in the library. Time management is really important, very, very important, especially in the process of publishing an issue in an academic journal. And then finally, copy editing. I'm just going to go in the chat. Yes, I agree. It's definitely great for screen readers. I'm very pro text. Like, I don't like to have a lot of images. So I'm very much into having alt text and always having text that really explains things. And yes, it's very, very good for screen readers. And also having, a page that kind of describes the article before you decide to download the actual PDF article. So in conclusion, I have some final remarks because I have no clue if I'm running out of time, but it's really important to think of professional development as a way of finding ways to for personal growth, right? Like grow, how to grow your mind, expand your mind. I know it sounds corny, but it rings really true for me. Getting out of your comfort zone, doing something that is uncomfortable. I recently made the big decision to during the pandemic to stop all public transit. So I bought a folding bike and now I bike everywhere. And I just, again, that's and I'm so scared of biking in New York City, but I did it. And it's getting out of your comfort zone, doing something that you're scared of, and try to learn new things every day. And because professional development is also about personal growth. I never imagined, starting a PhD at the age of 42. I was really scary. And making annual goals in your professional life, like, again, I'm going to learn this new software, or I'm going to do this. I think that's really important. And that professional development can be applied to all different aspects of your life, not just your professional life, but trying something new is really a key theme that I want to bring to today. And also, it is a lifelong investment. I never, ever imagined that I would be an author of a journal article or an author of a book. I never imagined that. So it's like, surprise yourself, do things that you think you could normally never do, and then it's just really rewarding to surprise yourself. And I want to just conclude on that. I want to thank everyone for attending this session and choosing this session today. So thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you so much, Mark, for this wonderful, amazing presentation, sharing so much insight, sharing your vulnerabilities, right? Your personal experience, and also the process. I am someone who is actually interested in starting a journal, and you've actually provided, for years I've been interested in starting a journal in a specific field, and you've actually provided lots of insight, believe it or not. I found your entire talk extremely useful, extremely helpful, and just thank you again for sharing. Now, this is the Q&A session. If anyone wants to ask a question, you may ask the question. You can drop it in the chat box. I do have a question of my own, but I will wait to see if anyone from our audience has any questions.
Okay, and I am sorry if I was talking really quickly. I was again, super nervous. So yeah, there's a lot to share, but it's also like a personal journey. This was something that I wanted. It was meaningful for me to do something that I wanted to kind of contribute to the scholarship of library marketing. So
fantastic, definitely.
If anyone doesn't have a question, I mean, Nelson, do you want to start with your question if you do have a question?
Sure, yes, I do have a question. Hopefully
Great.
it isn't too convoluted and too long. So I wrote it down. I will read it. If I need to repeat it, please let me know.
Okay.
A lot of what you said stuck with me, lots of what you said. But let's start with this one. Would you be interested in having institutional support for marketing library journal? For example, journal managers at some institutions are provided with resources. Example, a desk, a computer, some funding, and even salary to pay part-time staff or contractors, even if it's very little. Why not explore this option within CUNY or at another institution where you have someone that you work well with and or whom you trust, if you cannot do it at the College of Staten Island?
I would love to do that. I think I'm too afraid, and I'm too shy, and I'm too nervous. And I think sometimes I'm too afraid of approaching somebody. And I think that I'm very self-directed and kind of independent, and I don't want to rely. And when I did ask Megan a long time ago, they said they would get back to me, and there was a process, and then they rejected it, and I didn't care because it just was it was oh well, if CUNY has these slots and Urban Library Journal isn't one of them, maybe Meg has an extra, and they said that there were open slots, and I'm like, well, my academic journal is, I'm affiliated with CUNY, been here since 2008. So it didn't work out. So the answer is yes, I would be curious and interested to approach an academic institution for some kind of affiliation, because it's not about funding per se. I think it's more about making sure that, after I die, this journal can really remain online in perpetuity, and that it's not just relying on me hosting it with my own money, right? Oh, it's not super expensive, but it would be nice that there would have some perpetual access, so that, after, generations and generations, there'll be some, that the institutional memory of MLJ will stay with the scholarly community and LAS after I die. I shouldn't be like thinking that, but I have to think about that once this is an online only journal, right? There's no print. So, and so it only relies, it's only living because, there are copies on academic works, right? But other than that, I have to rely on authors to make a copy and put that on their digital repository. Other than that, it's housed on the MLJ website, and they have a Creative Commons license, so they can have a copy and do whatever they want with it. But, I'm always thinking, for the future, how will it like remain online and accessible and discoverable after I die? Because I don't have a co-editor, right? It's just me, and then there's the editorial board. So yes, I would love to, the idea of having, institutional affiliation would be very nice.
Oh, this is fantastic. Yeah, thank you for answering my question.
Sure.
You've actually thought of many questions, and in fact, you're thinking like a librarian, you're thinking like an archivist, you're thinking as a scholar, right? You're thinking as someone who understands that this work is important. You're thinking about the future, right? To ensure that there is some sort of transfer. I am willing to commit myself and provide assistance if I can, if you're
Oh, please do. Val just mentioned in the chat that, like, maybe because MLJ has been around since 2017, which is, I can't believe, like, the time is going by so quickly, that maybe CUNY would be like more open to that. I would love to have more exposure, and also I would love to have, more an institutional affiliation, so that it's not necessarily independently published. It's not, it's not a predatory journal. Like we literally, there's no money at all. Like, it is beyond free for authors and readers, and the only money that is paid is the out-of-pocket expenses that I pay to upkeep. But it's a lot of labor. It's a lot of like emotional labor, physical labor. Like, it's really a lot. And so yes, Nelson, if you're interested in helping, by all means, let's chat after.
Oh, sure, definitely. The thing is that this is again, you mentioned everything people want to hear. It's a reputable journal. It is not predatory at all. It has a leader, someone leading it that's doing a phenomenal job.
Oh,
I know you don't see yourself as a leader.
And there are CUNY librarians, who've published in MLJ. So even someone on the planning team, Julie Turley, has published an article all about how she used Instagram during the pandemic. And so, there are CUNY librarians who have published in MLJ. It is not a creepy, like, predatory journal. I promise.
Okay, no, definitely. And the point I was going to make is that it's certainly the type of journal that any institution, whether it's a public institution like CUNY, or let's say an Ivy League like a Harvard or Columbia, would definitely be interested in and be proud of actually having it under their banner, right? So just saying, and I'll leave it at that. But we have several audience members here. Does anyone else have additional questions or comments, remarks, etc.? Valerie, do you want to say anything on camera? You do not need to turn on your camera if you do not want.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm okay. Oh, thank you. Okay.
Would you like to read?
Let's see. I'll read what Tina has to say. Oh wait, I remember I did registration. Tina, I don't know if you're from Canada. I'm just wondering. Because I did I dealt with registration, so I recognize your name. Okay. Thank you so much, Mark, for your presentation. I don't have a question, but I did want to say that as a very newly minted librarian, it's very comforting to hear about the journeys established librarians have taken on to work through their struggles. It's definitely helps me feel less like a fraud. Thank you. I mean, I'm glad. Thank you so much for your feedback. And yeah, oh, thank you, Donna. I just want to say, like, I feel that way. I feel that way, even though I've been working in libraries for like 31, 32 years. And I definitely have like very, very known insecurities and uncertainties about myself. So I thank you, Donna. I do feel that I'm like definitely dedicated. So I'm glad that you glad that you think the presentation was wonderful. I'm usually a nervous wreck. But yeah, I think that I think I'm a little bit more confident because I think this is like my 23rd year. I got my MLS 23 years ago from the University of Western Ontario in London, Ontario, Canada. And I feel a little bit more like a little bit more confident, but I think that I still struggle. I still struggle with a lot of like not some issues relating to confidence. And I think like having and developing an open access academic journal, I think was like a test for me. So that's what I wanted to share with all of you, that it was definitely a test. Thank you, Lane. Oh, another Canadian. I'm pretty sure Lane is Canadian as well. Anyway,
Canadian.
no, I remember we had conversation. I think you're also from Montreal like me.
No,
I
my family's from Toronto, and I was
Yeah,
actually born in Ottawa, but
okay, I'm sorry. I am currently in Truro, Nova Scotia right now. We
Oh.
are, yes, which Truro is an hour away from Halifax. So I'm a time zone ahead. We are in the future. Anyway,
That's exciting.
so yes, that's exciting about sabbatical. You can like travel and do your research and just travel around. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming to this presentation. And I hope that thank you for the comments and the feedback. And I hope that you found it useful, and that it's very, very easy yet scary to develop, and be a publisher and then advocate for that as well. So.
Thank you, Mark. We actually have the closing session it'll start at 1:40 p.m. So we have
Okay.
We have 25 minutes for it. We still have 15 minutes for the session, well, 14 minutes for this session. If you
I'm so sorry that I went through it too quickly. I'm sorry about that.
Oh no, it's okay. It's yeah.
I don't, if you have more questions or comments, feel free to, so again, I did share my email. I'll just share it in the chat. So it is, it is markaaron.polger87@login.cuny.edu. That's my email. And the name of the journal is MLJ, Marketing Libraries Journal. Not to be confused with Marketing Library Services, different journal, different publication. And yeah, you can Google it. Yeah, and of course, if you're doing research that relates to marketing outreach, library communications, PR, anything that falls under the umbrella of marketing, we definitely invite you to submit a manuscript for consideration to MLJ. We publish twice a year, and we have a rolling deadline, and we collect issues into usually twice a year, sometimes once a year. So we are currently working on production for our summer issue. So yeah, and we devoted an entire issue to COVID, right? How libraries deal with COVID. That was a very interesting issue. So a lot of our issues are very timely, and I think that they really deal with how library workers who have marketing responsibilities, who have no marketing background, I have no marketing background at all, but who have marketing responsibilities, how they deal with that, how they deal with, kind of engaging in marketing endeavors and activities when they have no marketing budget, they don't even know what marketing is, they have no marketing training. So it's been a really good learning experience, so much so that I wrote a book about it. I wrote a book in 2019 all about library marketing. So that was fun and definitely uncomfortable for sure. So thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you believe that you have like sufficient bandwidth to possibly or to suggest or come up with a theme for future LACUNY revolving the work they do in marketing library.
So there was a roundtable that I was involved in for many years. It was like the LACUNY, like marketing and outreach roundtable, but it's kind of dormant. I wouldn't say it's dead. I'd say it's kind of dormant. And it was with, I believe it was with, I was involved with somebody from Hostos. And I think that kind of like, I mean, of course, I would be still interested in reviving that. So yes, I would definitely be interested in reviving that. I returned to campus in the end of August. So, you know, we could definitely, I would be very interested in reviving that roundtable. I believe it still exists. It just is kind of dormant.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
You have the final word. We do whatever you want.
Okay. But yeah, if there aren't any more questions, I guess, yeah, I'm sorry that my presentation was under the hour. Sorry. Yeah.
No, that's great. Yeah,
Okay.
didn't go over time. That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Mark. Well,
Yeah,
thank you
of
everyone
course.
who's here.
Yeah,
Look-
thank you all. I hope you enjoy the remainder of the conference, and thank you again for attending LACUNY Institute 2023. It's all wonderful to have all of you. So thank you. And thank you, Nelson, for being an amazing host and moderator. Much appreciated.
It's a team effort. We all, everyone.
I am less nervous. I am less nervous. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome. Happy to hear. All right. Take care, everyone. See you all at the closing
Okay.
session, hopefully.
Bye, everyone. Take care. Thank you.